The first Elvis single released in Japan with a picture sleeve was Heartbreak Hotel in 1956, with I Was the One on the flip side. It cost 400 yen, as you can see here on the back cover. Then in 1957, the price of singles was reduced to 350 yen, which is quite a big drop. So the record company needed to save money somehow, and they did that by spending less on the packaging, on the inserts and sleeves, by using generic designs. And we're going to be looking at one of those generic sleeve designs today, specifically this one here, the green and white one. We're going to look at the records which came with this insert and the different variants that are out there. The earliest one I've seen of this particular design comes with a record that was pressed in 1959. So that could well be the year that they first started appearing. But the vast majority of the ones that you'll find come with records that were pressed in the 1960s. But in actual fact, Victor had been using generic sleeve designs for Elvis's singles for a couple of years before that, since 1957. For instance, this design here they used on a few singles. Picture of Elvis there in the top left corner. This would all change depending on the title. And there's also a yellow variant of this as well, with the top half is yellow, the bottom half is white. Then from 1957 they used, still 1957, a bit later in 1957, they used this design here with this photograph of Elvis and this abstract design. And the color would change. Sometimes it would be this sort of pale pink color, other times it would be blue. And of course the text here would change depending on the release. So that's another kind of a generic sleeve design that they used. And also from around about 57 and then into 58 and beyond was this design here, using these same two photos of Elvis. The text at the bottom would change depending on the title, and also the colors would change as well. There are quite a few different colors out there. The beauty of those generic sleeves is, of course, you can print lots of them and just change the text depending on the title. And this one here, this design here, was even better for the record company, because take away the black text here and the catalog number here, and you can use this design for not only for Elvis's records, but for anybody else on the Victor label. So let's take a look at the first one here. In fact, this one here, All Shook Up, this is the earliest single that came with a green and white insert. I'm not saying this is the very first green insert, it's the earliest single that came with one. This particular version here is from the 1960s. And in fact, the B-side of All Shook Up at that point was a song called Mama Guitar by Julius La Rosa. It's a bit weird, actually. Listen to these lyrics. It says, Mama Guitar beats a woman every time. You can tease her, you can squeeze her, make her sing out sweet and blue, and if her strings get rusty, you can trade her in for new. Mama Guitar beats a woman every time. Maybe I shouldn't be too harsh on this. It's from a movie, and I haven't seen the song in context. There's quite a few Elvis songs that are pretty weird away from the movie. Anyway, so that was the first one. And like I said, there are quite a few variants out there. And with in the case of All Shook Up, there are several variants of the green insert. One to look out for is a green insert with this picture. If you can imagine that picture in this space here. And they use that design of green insert for several singles, but they're all quite rare. There were in fact 16 singles that were released with these green and white inserts. All Shook Up, as I say, was the first one. The second one was Lonesome Cowboy. The third one was this one here, Teddy Bear, backed with That's When Your Heartaches Begin. There were a few different variants of the All Shook Up green insert, but in the case of Teddy Bear, we think there's only one. This is the only one that we've found so far. This particular record was pressed in 1964. Many of these green inserts are actually quite difficult to find, but the next one, the next title anyway, is fairly easy to find with one of these green inserts. And in fact, I've got a couple of them, a couple of different versions, so I can start to talk about I'll start to show you some of the variants now. Jailhouse Rock, Treat Me Nice. There are, in fact, half a dozen or so different green inserts for this single. And here's a second one. That first one that I just showed you there, that was from 1963. The second one is actually from the late 60s. So that one there at the front now. This one is from the late 60s, and I can't tell you exactly when that was pressed because, well, when the record was pressed, because from 1967 Victor stopped using date stamps on their records, so it's pretty much impossible to accurately date a record pressed after 1967. But anyway, it's certainly 1968 or later. But there are a couple of differences here that we can see. So one thing that you'll notice if you look closely is the size of the logo. This one here is noticeably bigger than that one there. And something that I've noticed about the later inserts, the green is noticeably more vivid. The shade of green is a more vivid shade of green than the earlier ones. This is a slightly paler looking green. And also this the earlier inserts, they're quite rough to touch, whereas the later ones here are quite smooth. But it's usually the back of the inserts that you need to look at to start identifying the different variants. So the one that we've got there from 63, you can see it's just got the lyrics and then some copyright text in Japanese and then the Victor record company name. But if you compare that to the other one, the later one, you can see it's got this symbol up here, which I've talked about before, the bell mark, and it's got the cost down here, 400 yen. So the price of singles was 400 yen from 1968 to 1972. So that's how we can date this single from the late 60s at the earliest. And there are various different combinations. You know, is this symbol, is it on the left, is it on the right? How much is the price? Is there a price? And so on. So those are the basic things that you're looking for to identify these different variants. One other thing you can look out for on the labels to identify a later pressing is this text here where it says side 1 below SS series, and obviously side 2 on the other side. Interestingly, it's got Treat Me Nice as side 1. That was the later single there, but if you go back to the earlier one, you can see it just says SS series. So they didn't start using the side 1, side 2 text with new releases until Return to Sender in 1963. So anything that has a side 1, side 2 text on the right, that will be a post-1963 label. The next single to be found with a green insert was Wear My Ring Around Your Neck. And this single was quite interesting because it was the first one in the SS series that didn't use a generic sleeve design. It actually used the same sleeve design as the American Picture Sleeve single. And then moving on from Wear My Ring Around Your Neck, we had King Creole. Now I've got 2 copies of King Creole that we can look at. There are, again, quite a few variants of the King Creole green insert. Most of them have this lettering here on the right with Elvis's name and King Creole in large text, but there are some green inserts that don't have that at all. So that's that one there. This is the one I was talking about earlier that came with the single from 1959. And this is another one. This particular record is from early 1964. It looks to be identical from the front, but in actual fact, if you look closely, the text is exactly the same, but it's the positioning of the different elements that's different. So if you look at this one here, the 60s one, there's the logo and there's the first row of text, and the gap there is about as wide as my finger. But if we go to that one there, you've got the logo up here and there's the first row of text, but the gap is about nearly as wide as 2 fingers now. But as ever, it's really the back that you need to look at to identify the differences. So the early one it doesn't have that symbol in the top corner, the bell mark, and it doesn't have a price because it's a 50s record. And this one here from the 60s, you can see it's got the little triangle up there and a price down here. Following King Creole, we got Young Dreams, I Need You So, and Blue Moon. All of those singles eventually appeared with the green inserts. The next one to do so was I Need Your Love Tonight. This single initially appeared with a calendar type insert, lots of pictures of Elvis in a calendar, which came out in '59. And I've actually got 3 copies of that single. The first one, the one from '59, I've got that one. This one is actually from 1960, but I've also got another one from 1963, I think it is, with the calendar insert again. So that shows that in some cases, what they would do is they would print these once the initial batch of inserts had been sold out. And then if the demand was there, they would go back to the original design. And that's what they appear to have done with this particular single. It's quite hard to find this one with the green insert. I mentioned earlier that there are a lot of variants of green insert for the Jailhouse Rock single. The I Need You So single also, believe it or not, has about half a dozen different variants. Unfortunately, I don't have one to show you today. Another single where there are a lot of different green inserts is A Big Hunk of Love, and I've got a couple to show you today. The first one here, this is from 1962, and I've got another one here from 1963. Once again, here you can see that we've got 2 different logo sizes here, big one here and a small one here. But again, the backs are quite different, so there's no price and no bell mark on this one, the earlier one from '62. But on this one here, you can see it does have the bell mark over here and the price down here as well. In the case of A Big Hunk of Love, the reason why there are so many different variants is because they kept messing it up. So down here you've got the Japanese title of My Wish Came True. So initially they got that wrong. There was a mistake in the title. A couple of the letters were the wrong way around, totally changing the meaning of the song title. Then they got that right, but then there was still a problem with the English title, A Big Hunk of Love. It said A Big Hunk of Love. Finally they got that right, and that's what we have here. This is the corrected version. In fact, both versions are correct. Don't be fooled, by the way, if you see something like that. You see that little red oval shaped text there. Don't be fooled into thinking that's that's a variant. That's actually someone's name stamp. In this case, it's Harasawa. Harasawa-san. Harasawa-san. Anata no record mottemasu yo. I hope they're still alive anyway. So if you're still with us, you'll have noticed by now that all the releases so far have been 1950s, and we've nearly got through all 16. There were a few singles from the 60s which also appeared with the green insert. The earliest one was GI Blues. This is actually like that second copy of Jailhouse Rock we looked at. It's a very late one with the smoother paper and the more vivid green colour. And I can also show you that GI Blues was still being released with the green insert when it was switched to RCA, when they started pressing it on RCA. Surrender also was released with a green Victor insert. I don't have one of those at the moment, but I've got this RCA one to show you. And the last single, the latest single to be released with a green insert was Wooden Heart, Pocket Full of Rainbows. This one I don't believe was ever released with an RCA sleeve. But I think this is the only variant for this particular single. Since filming the first part of the video, I've actually received another one of those green and white logo jacket releases, and here we are. It's another copy of All Shook Up with Mama Guitar. This one is slightly different to the other one, noticeably on the back, in that it has the bell mark up there and the price down there. The other version we looked at has neither of those. This record is also a slightly later pressing. It comes from 1964. And also, since I started filming the video, I've learned that Steve from TCB since '73 has not been very well. I understand he was in hospital, but I believe he's back home now. So Steve, if you're watching, I hope you're recovering and doing well. I managed to find some footage going back to Mama Guitar, And I hope this will cheer you up. See you all next time.
Make her sing out sweeter blues. And if her strings get rusty, you can trade her in for new. A mama guitar beats a woman every time. Hey, mama, mama guitar. Hey, mama guitar. Sweet mama, mama guitar. I love my mama, I love my mama, I love my mama, I love my mama. I love, 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 love my mama guitar. Love my mama guitar.
It's still weird.